What's up, everybody? Hope y'all having a good one. Welcome back to the channel. As you all know, the impeachment inquiry into Joseph Biden started off today, and as you can probably guess, there was a whole lot of bluster, a whole lot of BS, and even more denial. The Democrats were in full-on insane mode, just going right out there, and I counted it. It only took just shy of 2 minutes for Trump to get mentioned. And they stayed on Trump. Trump this, Trump that, Trump everything. Trump's running this, Trump's doing that. It was insane. The Democrats are insane. I can't believe these people. You got, in one instance, Jim Jordan lays out his evidence, right? So right after that, Jamie Raskin comes up and immediately says, there's no evidence for this. Well, he just gave you the evidence, you idiot. But we'll cover some of that because I want to get into some highlights of that. But for right now, we're going to start with opening statements that I found very interesting. And I really agree pretty closely with this first guy. He says it all. Let's roll that clip.
Thank you, Chairman Comer, Ranking Member Raskin, members of the committee. It's an honor to appear before you today to talk about what is undoubtedly the most weighty constitutional decision that you have under Article 1, other than the declaration of war, and that is the potential impeachment of a President of the United States. It was roughly 25 years ago that I appeared in the impeachment proceedings with other experts in the impeachment of President William Clinton. It was 4 years ago that I appeared in the impeachment proceedings for President Donald Trump. And then it was just 3 years ago that another impeachment occurred without any hearings at all. The shortening intervals between impeachments should be a cause of concern and circumspection for all the members on both sides.
Now, I just wanted to stop right there because I find that quite interesting. I did not know, like I said, I wasn't really following politics all that much at that point. I didn't know that they did that last impeachment with no hearings whatsoever. They just went straight to impeachment. And see, what else is funny is Jamie Raskin was bitching about there not being a vote for impeachment when this isn't an impeachment, it's an impeachment inquiry. He got shut down for it, but it just goes to show you the insanity of the Democrats. And that's another thing that this guy was saying, the frequency of these impeachments. I mean, we had 2 with Trump. It was, what, 20-something years for the previous impeachment, Bill Clinton? And then we had 2 for President Trump, and now we're about to have another one for President Biden. That's very alarming. It tells you where American politics are at. They're in the gutter, and I hate to blame it all on Democrats, but looking at it from the outside, like I said, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm definitely not a Democrat. Right now, I'm leaning toward the side of the Republicans because everybody who's not an all-out insane leftist Democrat is considered right-wing. It's crazy right now. But the frequency of these impeachments is alarming. And that, like I said, that just tells you where American politics are right now. And that we need to do something about this. Something needs to happen. Because this craziness has got to stop. Let's keep rolling.
This is a question of an impeachment inquiry. It is not a vote on articles of impeachment. In fact, I do not believe that the current evidence would support articles of impeachment. First, President Biden has indeed spoken falsely about these foreign deals. The Washington Post and other newspapers have noted that some of his past comments are demonstrably untrue. Second, President Biden was the focus of a multi-million-dollar influence peddling scheme. And then finally, President Biden may have benefited from millions of dollars as a part of that scheme. Now, those facts should not be taken out of context. They're merely allegations, and they should not become presumptions of impeachable conduct. Influence peddling is a form of corruption. The United States has signed treaties to combat this form of corruption around the world. And that is also an inescapable fact. We need to find answers as to some of these questions. These are constitutional moments that demand the best from each of us to transcend the politics and passions of our time. It calls for something that's difficult. It calls for solemnity and clarity from members. We have become a nation addicted to rage, and we can fuel that. This body is a powerful teacher, as Brandeis said, and you can teach that, or you can teach a respect for this process. It begins here and now. We can disagree with each other without hating each other. These are important issues, and I think they're close issues. And I think some of these issues really do gravitate in favor of the president. So I would simply say that this is a moment where members and citizens can stand together without prejudging the evidence.
All right, couple things with that. You know, I agree that there probably isn't enough for impeachment, because how can we impeach a president for stuff he did while he was vice president? He was out of office for 4 years. He wasn't in any public office whatsoever. So how can we impeach him for that stuff? If we do go with impeachment, it should be for him as vice president, not as sitting president, in my honest opinion. I mean, I'm not a constitutional scholar, but logic should dictate that you can't impeach the guy currently for stuff he did when he was at a previous position. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, you have this guy, Mr. Turley, or Professor Turley, I should say, openly admitting that he was part of an influence peddling corruption scheme outright. He also outright says that Joe Biden lied at least 10 times, but I would argue that it was a lot more than that, and just about everything Joe Biden says is a lie. But, that, like I said, that's an arguable point. We can go back and forth on that. But I also agree that we should be able to disagree and still be cordial with each other. I mean, like I said the other day, we need to return some decorum back to political discussions and discourse. I mean, the only problem is anytime you disagree with a Democrat, somebody on the left, they instantly go to name calling. You're a fucking fascist. You're a Nazi. Or they call you some stupid name. And how are you going to argue with that? Oh, no, I'm not. No, you're not going to do that. How do you argue with somebody who devolves into name calling? You can't do that. So, Mr. Turley, I would say that the point for that has long passed, because these people are insane and they can't be argued with. They just don't follow proper decorum when it comes to discourse, when it comes to debate, when it comes to arguing your points, trying to get your points across that, look, you can't do it this way. Please explain how you would do it. And then they call you a fascist or a Nazi or a racist, or, throw in whatever term you'd like. They just devolve into that. And you just can't have honest discourse that way. It just doesn't work. You can make all the logical arguments you like, but, if this person is pissed off and just throwing some insane stuff out there, how are you going to argue with that? You can't do it. So, but let's keep rolling. This lady comes up for her opening statement, and she actually has quite a compelling case as to something we should look more into as far as an impeachment for Merrick Garland. Watch this.
The chairman invited me to share my thoughts on the conduct of the tax investigation into Hunter Biden. I make my comments on my own behalf as a private citizen and not on behalf of any person with whom a group with which I might be or have been affiliated. When I learned that experienced IRS special agents had felt compelled to report to Congress about the obstruction of their criminal tax investigation, I felt compelled, too, to share my understanding of how things are supposed to work with people who have no reason to appreciate how disturbing the whistleblower's allegations are. Without context and a frame of reference, it's difficult to know sometimes how seriously to take things. In an October 2022 meeting of the Hunter Biden prosecution team, U.S. Attorney Weiss admitted it was not his decision whether to bring charges the investigation had proven should be brought. This directly contradicted Attorney General Garland's sworn testimony 6 months earlier. This was the final straw. After more than 3 years of having his investigation stymied, but nonetheless having proven substantial criminal charges, Supervisory Special Agent Shapley realized he had to come forward. In fact, he had come forward before, internally within the IRS, using the procedures developed for that purpose. He had complained up his chain of command as early as June 2020 about the obstruction he was encountering, but there had been no response. Once Shapley had taken steps to come forward to Congress, Special Agent Joseph Ziegler did the same. It was not the whistleblower's testimony, however, but what followed that compelled me to write. My first Wall Street Journal article was called "Throw Hunter Biden's Plea Deal in the Trash." Given the substance of the whistleblower's testimony, the plea deal Weiss had worked out with Biden was a miscarriage of justice. After that commentary was published, I heard from many people who were similarly appalled at the unfolding injustice. Many were knowledgeable and experienced tax professionals. Perhaps the most commonly commented on aspect of the handling of the Hunter Biden matter was that Weiss had permitted the statute of limitations to expire on prosecuting provable offenses. This was appalling. It is not insignificant that the plea agreement was announced on June 20. Let's review what came just before. On August 19, it became known that IRS employees were going to let Congress know about the obstruction they were encountering. Later, Shapley and Ziegler sat for hours of sworn and subscribed testimony with the House Ways and Means Committee staff. It was expected that the committee would make the testimony public. It did, on June 22. U.S. Attorney Weiss, with his June 20 announcement of a plea deal, beat the publication of the whistleblower's testimony by the skin of his teeth, 2 days. If the whistleblowers had not come forward, would Weiss have brought any charges at all? My second Wall Street Journal commentary was published on July 25. It was called "You'd Go to Prison for What Biden Did." Given what Shapley and Ziegler testified they had proven, and the charges the tax division reportedly had authorized, the plea deal represented serious injustice, not only to law enforcement, but also to people who have been caught up in this system and have suffered the consequences the law provides. I received a great deal of positive feedback on this commentary, too. People understand that for laws to be respected, they must be enforced. The nature of any investigation is the following of leads. That didn't happen here. This team was not permitted to search the guest house of Joe Biden's Delaware mansion and Hunter Biden's storage facility in Virginia, to interview family members and business associates, to examine Hunter Biden's abandoned laptop. By November 2019, the FBI had confirmed the devices were Hunter's and the contents were authentic. But the Hunter Biden investigation must not be viewed in isolation, rather as part of a broad landscape of corruption. Don't forget that a full year after that, in October 2020, FBI officials were telling Twitter that the laptop was Russian disinformation. The whistleblowers tell us that the tax investigation of Hunter Biden was an offshoot of an investigation already underway into an online pornography platform. That is how investigations develop. Agents follow wherever the leads take them, and when they take them in the direction of a new investigation, they open one. Question: if U.S. Attorney Weiss had been in charge of that pornography investigation, would he have blocked the investigation into Hunter Biden's tax crimes?
Okay, so immediately there are several questions that pop up from this. First is, why was the Department of Justice blocking the IRS from investigating any further into Hunter Biden's tax evasion that linked directly to Joe Biden? Were they trying to cover something up? I mean, that's anybody that saw that is like, obviously, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to stop the IRS from investigating and connecting the dots to this influence peddling scheme that Joe Biden is a part of, so that when the House Republicans are doing their investigation, they'll see that and can connect the dots and criminally charge Joe Biden for corruption and influence peddling while he was vice president. The Department of Justice stopped the IRS. That's the first thing. Bye-bye, Merrick Garland. What in the hell are you doing? Did you just give that order to do that, or did that come from somebody else? We all know who we're talking about here. That's the first thing I would love to know. And secondly, that deal that the Department of Justice gave to Hunter Biden, first off, was complete BS. It was woefully inadequate. Okay, they didn't give him nearly enough. I'll put it this way. He was basically getting probation. No jail time, nothing, for tax evasion of upwards of, I think it was like $7 million worth, because they also let the statute of limitations run out on some of this other stuff that would connect the rest of that, what was it, almost $12 million of tax evasion that the Bidens got from the influence peddling schemes. Blows my mind. But that's not even the worst part. The worst part is specifically in that sweetheart deal that they gave to Hunter Biden, they offered immunities for future prosecutions of specific crimes. That was all the way in the back of that deal. Now you might be thinking, they gave this deal to him, and that was months ago. How come none of this went through? Well, a judge that was overseeing this case just so happened to read through this plea agreement and found these immunities and all the inconsistencies and how inadequate this plea agreement was, and threw it out. That's right. A judge saw it and was like, I can't touch this. Strike number 2, Merrick Garland. Which is crazy. I mean, the corruption going on here. There's all this evidence that's just piling up against Joe Biden. The only thing that they can't do is connect the dots. Physically, they can't connect the dots. But logically, those dots are connected, the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, and the Q's have the little line through it. We see everything that's going on. This corruption is insane, and I can't believe the Democrats are actually saying, well, where's your evidence? There's no evidence. This is all a sham. The news media is getting right in behind them. There's no evidence, blah, blah, blah. These people are, I hate to say it, but this is evil incarnate. This is corruption 101. My mind is simply blown. And I can't believe all this is going down like this. You start connecting all these dots, and this is crazy. I'm pissed at every single person that voted for Joe Biden. Now, of course, you might say, well, they didn't know. But that's what you get when you vote for career politicians. That's why I don't vote for career politicians. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got to do something about all this corruption. This corruption is just insane. And I know I keep railing on that, but we got to do something about it. I don't know what it's going to take to get through to the Democrats that you need to stop arguing. You need to stop being in denial. Admit it so we can move forward. We can get rid of the people we need to get rid of. It's for the better of the country. You're only making things worse by denying all these allegations. You're only making things worse by calling the other side extreme lunatics. They're not. Logic is on our side. We got to keep on pushing. We got to keep at it. And we got to keep going. We got to force these people to admit they're wrong. We got to force these corrupt politicians to step down. Us as citizens, we need to put pressure on these people. We need to push back. It's going to take a lot of people to do it. It's going to take me, and it's going to take you that's listening out there to do something. Call your congressman. Write him a letter. Send him an email. Do something. Tell him you're pissed off. Something has to change. And don't take no for an answer. And that's all I got for this one, y'all. Thank everybody for watching. Like I always say, hit that like button. It helps out a lot. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think about all this. What's really going on in the government. Can we really keep going knowing there's all this corruption in there? I don't think we can keep going like this, y'all. Something is going to break. And I don't want there to be any kind of violent outbreak. But it sure does seem like that's what the Democrats are pushing for. But like I said, y'all, thanks for watching. And have a good one. And be positive. Peace.